Before his untimely death 25 years ago, Brandon Lee had starred in just 4 films, with a couple of other uncredited or TV film appearances, before his 5th and sadly final with The Crow. Though he of course lived in the shadow of his legendary father, even with this small amount of roles, he was already well on his way to forging a distinct and successful career of his own. Numerous sources online state, for example, that he was even the first choice of the Wachowski sisters to play Neo. But I'm not sure of the veracity of that claim. It is very believable though. The guy had the martial arts skill and the presence to pull it off, and is a similar style of actor as Keanu that you can feel Lee's trajectory regardless. He is obviously most famous for The Crow, which to be honest has been spoken about enough for me to not need to hear. So I want to look at one of his slightly lesser known, but probably my favourite, of his short but impactful output, Rapid Fire. Previous to this, he was most well known for starring alongside Dolph Lundgren in Showdown in Little Tokyo, or perhaps for the atrocious Laser Mission. Please don't watch Laser Mission. But it wasn't until Rapid Fire that he got a chance to really showcase himself as a leading man in an action film entirely of his own. Director Dwight Little comes from a horror background and made the pleasingly violent and generally one of the best Seagal efforts with Marked for Death. And here he once again proves his action direction chops in a somewhat derivative, but most certainly effective, Little Crime caper. The disillusioned son of a military father killed during Tiananmen Square, he witnesses a murder. He's pulled into police protection where corrupt cops try to kill him until Powers Booth saves the day in a rare good guy role.
You want to keep breathing, kid? Don't move.
With Booth and his partner, played by Kate Hodge, the love interest for Lee, they work to take down Nick Mancuso's bad guy. Alright, so without spoiling anything, we know who is going to win here. But the action is pretty tense anyway. It's all covered well, but not over-edited like it is today, so you can follow it without question. Action sequences are set up before bullets and fists start flying simply by showing the characters checking out the area. And Little knows how to frame his leading man and his moves, and what moves Lee has. Lee proves himself both as an actor with genuine charisma and fantastic physical prowess. He even fights henchman legend Al Leong, and Leong is given a rare opportunity to showcase his skills in what is an absolute highlight of a fight. It's slower than what we see these days, but for the time, it definitely would have been something impressive, and it still is really. One thing I do love about this film is how much Little and Lee make this very cliched tale their own, working within a very at this point tired framework but having a lot of fun with it. Shot just after the end of the 80s excess era, they still hit all of those 80s action moments but put their own spin on them. They have, for example, that standard sultry sex scene most of these films had to feature, but they intercut it with a murder. And the murdered guy, until this point he was our main villain. It keeps things at least a little interesting and harder to guess. In the end, okay, it's not a classic, but it does what it's supposed to do about as well as could be expected. It's the sort of thing you might see Scott Adkins or Michael Jai White doing these days, but with a surprisingly solid, recognisable cast and a decent enough budget to do things with genuine flair. If you have an interest in the late Brandon Lee's work, you can't go far wrong with Rapid Fire.